Hello folks, and today we are back covering another banger, of course, in the LEC between Fnatic and G2. And I don't really need to point out this matchup too much in terms of like expectations for draft, because I think these are two of the most creative teams in the entire league in terms of just not only the gameplay and like the level of play they bring to the table, but also what they bring from a draft perspective. And I think this is a really interesting example of where, especially Fnatic, they had a very strong idea of how they wanted to play out this draft and how they wanted to dictate the direction of the game based on draft and how they kind of navigated that. So this is mainly off the back of this Braum ban on phase 1 into the Vi B1, which is a very unorthodox sort of opener here, because you're revealing a lot about how you want to play this game out from the beginning of the draft. So it's basically on all on G2 to kind of prepare themselves as much as possible to not only prepare their matchup as strongly as possible, but also kind of prepare for the inevitable engage that they're going for. And this could be just because they have a pretty strong read on what G2 likes to play right now and the style they like to go for. So, it's very interesting. We talk about there's objectively good metas in draft, and there's metas where it's more diverse, and you think about the players and the team and how they like to play and what they like to go for. And this is one of those metas right now, and Fnatic went for that opener. So basically, it's a punish on G2 for abusing things like the Corki, where it's like hedging against the Corki and hedging against other picks that they like to go for, like this Ashe, for example. So keeping this in mind, Braum is one of the best defensive sort of backwards picks. And by pre-banning it, it's not very common, but by pre-banning it, they both remove the idea of them being able to play out this sort of comp, but also being able to ban out some of the problematic mid laners to prevent Caps from getting proud, to also prevent the way they want to win the game. So it looks like they really want to start fights on their terms, and they want to cause a lot of chaos on the map, because if they can get advantages on their terms, then that's usually how they feel like they're going to be able to win this game out. And G2 basically are all in the breaks at this point, right? Let's say it's really effective against teams that are not very good at this sort of style. G2 are a pretty chaotic team themselves if they want to be. And if they're not allowed to do that by banning out a lot of picks that make very forward comps viable, then they're willing to handshake that. I really like that sort of thing. If Fnatic lose here, they will lose on their own terms, and they lose in a way that stylistically is favorable to them. And this is like forcing the enemy to respond to you versus you responding to the enemy. And this is the layers of draft that go beyond just picking quote-unquote the best champion. Because especially in a meta like this, where you're seeing so many different styles, so many different champions across all these different roles, then you can kind of think about, what should I isolate in terms of my picks? What should I isolate in terms of what matchups I can go for? Or maybe I can curb players like Broken Blade or Mickey by having them forced to play only a select couple of champions. And then by them doing that, they don't have the playstyle that they can go for anymore. And I think this is really cool. And even though, to be honest with you, Fnatic lost this game, I don't think that's very important, because it's a really cool direction with the way they forced this draft to go. And I think there could be other teams that really force this sort of style, and they get punished by teams like Fnatic that are willing to just make specific trades and alter the environment of the draft, right? One element is getting advantage in draft directly by just having better champions, having good matchups, being favorable, but it's also contextual to how the team likes to play. And this is a great example of, I would say, in the upper echelons of drafting, where it affects the gameplay, not directly, but because we're playing the psychological game, and we're playing, we're drafting in contextual basis to G2. Not just, we're drafting because we're picking the best champs in the game. And this is the main point of this draft, and I think even though G2 did come out on top here, this is a really interesting and unique way of drafting by Fnatic, and that should be kind of pointed out here. So hopefully this makes sense to you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. I just thought it was super interesting.